Let's talk about doing something professionally, doing something that we feel like doing, but doing something of any means. Who out there is doing something? Maybe we're afraid to do something. Maybe we are doing something. Maybe we haven't done something yet. I'm going to approach this from a different angle than what we would normally think is the route to go. I would think that the normal gnosis of what we should prepare before we do something is to inform ourselves as much as possible, then we act. And I'm going to suggest that that is going to slow us down and even paralyze us. There's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect that I'm going to be talking about today. And that's essentially, you guys are familiar with this. It's like when you start to learn a little bit and then you think you know everything, right? It's the classic teenager. And it's really easy to see that in somebody if you've already been through that stage. But when you're in that stage, you almost never realize that you're in that stage. You think that you know everything because what you know is everything that you know. You don't know enough that you don't know enough to know that you don't know very much. So back to the original question though, because that's what is going to be applicable here is anybody out there desiring to move forward into an aspect of their life, but they're paralyzed? Maybe they're thinking that they need to know more. They need to prepare more. They need to get better at something. They need to acquire more things. The external environment needs to shift. They need an investor. They need a space. They need more equipment. They need more practice. They need their family to support you. Getting some me's, yes, me's. And the reason for that is because we like comfort. We like validation. In fact, we're addicted to validation because of things like school and jobs. And the parents play into that, right? Because the parents are completely embracing schooling and embracing getting a job. Now, schooling does what? It teaches us that if we have the right answer, we get the good grade. And the people with the good grades are the favorites, right? And you literally get markings based on the criteria that wasn't formulated specifically for the type of person that the student is. It was formulated for a general criteria that applies to everybody. And that's best case scenario. Schooling, if we go way back, was formulated to turn kids into soldiers that follow instructions. And then eventually kids into employees that follow instructions. This is why everything's set up that way. You have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. You get asked the questions. If you think about schooling, it should be the opposite, right? The kids are the ones that ask the questions. The kids have completely open imaginations that have unlimited possibilities of roads to travel down if they were the ones directing the class. The teachers have a very rigorous, specific agenda. So we take the kids that are the new generation of life, of thought, of light on this planet, and we corral them into a cage. And from there, we say yes or no, you're good, you don't know what you're talking about, you're stupid, you're a disruption. And we start to form our society based on the schooling, right? Think about it. You got corporations that are more powerful than governments. What are they doing? They're manipulating the children. That's why the advertisements are made for the children. Think about, was that cigarette company, Joe Camel? I don't even know if that still exists. Complete cartoon character to get kids addicted to cigarettes. Yes, me, I need to understand how to use Instagram proficiently, feel frustrated and feel like I should know. Okay, so we're going to be talking about this. Since Karen's talking about Instagram, I'm assuming that she's meaning that she's not moving forward into showing herself on social media. If kids would be learning, that would be a great thing in school today. Nowadays, that's not happening. Cooling down while you speak, as I'm so stressed of the pressure from the outside that it's making me burn from the inside. Just watch your breath for a second. Breathe in through the nose and just observe it. Don't take a deep breath. Just let your body breathe it in and witness the beauty of your body. It's literally pulling in life force, which is what air is. And within that air, there's prana, and that's giving you life. It's the same air, it's the same prana that has been breathed by everything that's ever breathed in existence. And it's going to be breathed by everything that has the capability to breathe in the future. And if you come out of a linear timeline perspective, the breath that you're taking in now is the same breath that everything else is breathing currently because it's now everywhere. There's so many narcissistic parents that one step children to succeed so they can say they did it. Want their children to succeed to say they did it. In a way, I get that because children aren't just children. Yes, they can be just children, independent entities, free will of their own. I also think that there is some other deeper connection that may be misunderstood. So people are wanting to live through their children. But I feel that the reason for that is because, as I said, if linear time is not existing and it's a figment of this reality, an aspect of this reality, well, then what are the kids then? It's essentially this consciousness is adapting through time and it's showing up in different physical vessels. Maybe your kids are yours. Maybe there's another consciousness that hitches on along the way. But I feel that there's a natural inclination to enhance the kids' lives to fulfill your own, because you missed out on it your own. You're living through your kids naturally. It's a natural desire. I'm not saying that it's a healthy one for the kids. I'm just saying that it's natural for people to feel that way. I fear charging for services I have given for free for so long. Thank you, Jesse. We're still going back to that. We're going back to stepping into the next chapter of our life and why we're not doing that. Mostly because of fear, right? So I have one of those communities on Instagram. I don't know what they're called. It's not like a paid membership. It's called Tips for an Ascended Life, and it's a broadcast channel. And I asked the question, what fear holds you stuck? And there's a lot of people answering the questions, and a lot of these answers have to do with internal blockages. Failing my loved ones is somebody's fear. I won't be happy again. Fear of not being enough, being too much or too little, being a single mom forever, failure, my own potential, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of taking up too much space, fear of having my rage witness, fear of abandonment, fear of not living up to my full potential, getting lost in responsibilities that take me away from my purpose, fear of not being good enough. So a lot of people are stuck because they have these fears that are internally based. It's an internal reflection. It comes from within. Now, let me see if I can find an external reflection. Confidence is another one. I fear I may lose myself, not knowing S-H-I-T. There's actually exclamation points and stuff, so he didn't actually say it. Somebody fears governments are unjustly manipulating the people. So that's an example of an external fear. Anxiety, fear of lacking, people criticizing. That's another fear externally. However, that's kind of like 50-50. You fear what could happen externally, but you're really fearing what that means to you internally. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because a lot of times I can go many ways. Yesterday when I was live, I was talking about how the best way to get over a fear is to go into it. And so for today, I'm going to be talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, which the Dunning-Kruger effect is also something that adults who know of this don't want to behave this way. So when we get into our late 30s, our 40s, our 50s, we may find ourselves stopping ourselves because we don't want to be the rookie that's acting like a professional. and making everybody and fearing that everybody else is going to be able to see through us, is going to be able to see that we're an imposter. Now, the amazing thing is that when you're 21, 19, 18, 17, you don't have this awareness. And when I think back when I was 21, 22, and thinking I'm going to move to California and I'm going to start a gym, and that gym's going to have ropes from the ceilings, big tractor tires, big open spaces, turf. We're going to be doing lots of functional fitness. I even had a name. It was Functional Fitness Facility, and it was going to be F cubed. That was going to be sort of the logo, Functional Fitness Facility. And all that mattered to me was the vision of it. I wasn't concerned. I remember even telling a personal trainer this, and he looked at me like it was an older personal trainer, and he basically looked at me like I was crazy, and he said like that's not really going to happen. You're not even a personal trainer. How are you going to own a gym in California? And I took that and I moved to California and I did it. I think it was less than 2 years after moving into California. I had a 10,000 square foot gym with members, lots of members paying $200 a month, 5 figures in money coming in and out the doors. And I was on a roll. Within 2 years of moving to California, completely changed my life because I didn't know to doubt myself. There's that meme. You guys might have seen it. I'll just say it if I can remember it. It says, there's millions of people there's millions of people that are stupider than you, but are more successful because they don't know to doubt themselves. Something like that. Because they're not smart enough to doubt themselves. Now, Dunning-Kruger effect. You know a little bit and you think you know everything, right? That was me. I'm going to go open a gym. I wasn't even a personal trainer. I was just interested in fitness. I liked it. I didn't know that the first thing about doing anything. You know what I did when I moved to California? When I started this, I went to the library. I couldn't even afford a book. So I found some stretching. When I moved here, I found out that in order to be a personal trainer, you need to be personal trainer certified. I do have a degree in exercise science and psychology, but the exercise science degree didn't mean anything. And I went to the library and I said, okay, so if I can't work in a gym, what can I do? I moved to California with a motorcycle. So I had a motorcycle. So what can I do? What can I do that doesn't take equipment, but I can go to people's house and train them? And so I don't know even how I came up with this, but I think I was in the library and I found these stretching books, and they were partner assisted stretches. And I couldn't even buy them. They were like $10. I found 2 books, partner assisted stretches, and I took pictures of them with my Trio. This was like before the iPhone existed. It was a Trio phone. It was like a Palm Trio, I think. I took pictures of these stretches. And so this was 2006-ish, maybe 2007. What is that? 17 years ago, maybe? So I'm taking pictures of these books, and then my plan was to then take the pictures and take my motorcycle and find clients, go to their house and bring a yoga mat with me and look at these pictures and then stretch the people out. And it worked. And I just moved here from Michigan making $10 an hour, maybe $13 an hour. And so I was like, I'm going to charge $35 a session for this. That was a lot of money for me for 1 hour of work, right? And then I got a client. I just went on Craigslist, posted on Craigslist. And I then said, all right, will people pay me $45 an hour? And this is before I even knew anything about success in California, that like these dollars per hour is like Midwestern, middle America mentality of somebody who was just raised in a suburb and went to public school and drank tap water and ate the standard American diet. Like everything for me was just like anything above $20 an hour was amazing for me. So now I'm like $45 an hour and I feel like I'm a millionaire because I'm going somewhere and someone's giving me $45 to stretch them. And then $55 people were doing it. And then $65, then $75. And I just feel like literally like a millionaire. And so that's how I started. Eventually I had 10 clients, $75 an hour. That's 6 figures a year. It's over $100,000. And then I got recruited to sell leases to apartments to students. Somebody I met in the gym also had a property management company. So I was managing apartments, managing the maintenance staff during the day, and training people in the morning and night, and like cashing in six figures, which was like insane for me. I didn't even know what I was doing. If somebody showed up and said, "Hey, I'm going to stretch you out," and if you guys would have seen what I was doing back then, having somebody lay down straddle and just like put my weight on top of them, get on your stomach. I'm just going to lift the back of your legs up and stretch the front of your body. It was insane. It was insane how incompetent and naive I was about the human body. I said I got a degree in exercise science, never went to a lab, didn't know what the inside of a human body looked like. All I really knew was what some muscles were called, some bones were called. This is the humerus bone, right? Gary loves that joke because it's humorous. The femur, I knew like metatarsals, metacarpals. I knew like some bones because I had to memorize that in anatomy class. But besides that, I didn't know anything. And I definitely didn't know anything about fascia, about even how stretching works or muscles. And I was started a 10-year career in that state of being, in that naivety, in that I'm so incompetent that I think I know everything stage. And my invitation is that's the point to start. That's the best point to start. The point to start is always the best time to start anything is going to be now. And so what I'm saying is if you're so skilled, so smart, you have so much life experience, you're a responsible adult, you're a good human being, and you wouldn't want to charge somebody until you feel like you know 10 times more than them, you're never going to start. It's just not going to happen because the Dunning-Kruger effect shows that the more that you know, the actual more that you realize that you don't know. So if you're a little bit past that first hump where you're past the I know everything stage and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't know. I need to know more. I need to know more. I need to know more. It's years before you feel competent. And even then, you're still going to have that voice that's saying, you're still a beginner. You barely know anything because there's just not enough time in our life to know everything that there is to know about any subject, literally any subject. And then once you just insert one paradigm shifting fact into it, like maybe the universe isn't put together in a gravitational way like we were taught in school, or maybe the way that we do math on 10 digits isn't the most optimal way, or maybe the past and the future doesn't exist the way that we were taught, or maybe cause and effect doesn't occur completely contained within this physical reality, that there may be something causing things outside this physical reality. Once you start like coming to these levels of awareness and perception, it's going to like throw over everything. And if you never started, if you were never doing this professionally, you will never, ever be able to. You're never going to be able to get into the game. So the invitation here, move into it. Whether we're talking about a professional venture, a creative venture, a personal development venture, or even asking for that thing that you know that you don't deserve, or the phone call with somebody who you know you don't deserve, the date with somebody who you're certain is better than you. Move into it, because in that process, you will accelerate your learning. Staying outside the game, you're very rarely going to learn anything real. One of those paradigm shifting things happens when you actually have experience doing the thing professionally. You can read all the books, the blog posts, watch all the YouTube videos, listen to all the podcasts that you desire. But that's never, ever going to replace actual experience within it. Kind of mixing metaphors and non-metaphors, like actual reality with this. Is that helping? So with that said, who out there is not moving forward into something? What is stopping you? And can you remember a time in your life when you were so naive that you succeeded. For me, I'm 42, and that's happened a few times in my life. I just named the gym thing where I completely moved across the country, didn't know what I was doing, and made it work just out of my complete lack of awareness of how things should be done. Complete lack of awareness. And what I'm saying here is when you don't have awareness that you have a lack of awareness, then it's easy to do this. It's easy to do this in your 20s. You're just filled with like fire and passion, and you're going in the directions, unless you've been battered down your whole life. Someone said, I do remember that time when I was 20 and 25. Yes. So now we're not, maybe some of us watching here, but I'm assuming that the general audience is more towards middle age and older. Of course, there's lots of kids and young adults here as well. But as you get into adulthood, business, as you gain life experience, maybe seeing some deaths of loved ones. Actually, we should bring that up. Death. But we've seen some things, and we've seen a whole lot of people that didn't know what they were talking about doing things, and we don't want to be like that. Let me turn the light back on. So if we know better, we stop. There's Dunning-Kruger effect is what I was talking about. And I'm sure there's other ways to label this. That was just some researchers in Cornell that a lot of people usually reference when they talk about this, because that's Western science. For me, it's having 3 children that I need to look after. So find myself sticking to my job that doesn't align with my sole purpose. Now, I'm very careful when talking to people with kids, because I used to, when I was younger, when I didn't know any better, I used to give advice to parents from my perspective, because and that gets dangerous because I don't have kids, and I respect what's going on as a parent, but I don't fully comprehend it because I don't have the experience. But I do know that there's a reliance on you as the parent. And I also know that there's other time during the day. And if we don't have that passion, that thing that's pulling our heart forward, then we're living a really miserable life. And I would assume, this is again, I'm being careful. I would assume that us, anyone could be a better parent if we were living a passionate life. If we actually were experiencing our best version of ourselves. Because I don't think giving it up for yourself, giving up your own dreams for the sake of your children, is an equation that works out in best case scenario. If we think about best case scenario for your children, best case scenario would be that they live a great, fulfilling life, and they had a parent that was doing that as well. Because then it's a positive reinforcement. There's not this feeling that the kids grow up feeling like their parents gave up their life for them. And so I feel that some of us owe it to our kids to do what it takes to live a passionate life, live a life of alignment. And really, it can start with an hour a day. And there's a difference between going to a job for 8 hours and doing something that you love for an hour a day. Because when you're doing something that you love, you're very proficient and effective. Most people, I forget, if you guys look up the statistic of average employees' productivity within an 8-hour day, it's like less than an hour. I think, or maybe it's somewhere around 1 or 2 hours of productivity in an 8-hour day. So even if you're going through the drag of doing what you need to do for that paycheck, you could probably be more productive in a side project that could potentially overtake the main income if you just were consistent at it. Think about why you're successful as an employee. this is an interesting subject. Okay. I actually love this subject because I'm in the network marketing business. So I actually speak to people about building side businesses and creating more income in that side business than the regular business. But if you take the reason why you're successful as an employee, and your success as an employee essentially equals your boss, your company making money off of you, right? I used to hire employees. That's what's necessary. The company needs to make more money off the employee than what the company's paying the employee. Now, the reason why you're successful as an employee is because the main reason is because you show up consistently. You show up consistently every single day and you do the job that needs to be done. You show up consistently. There's people out there that haven't taken a sick day in 5 years. And what is their heart desiring? Their heart's desiring to paint. And so you say, okay, you've been spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 5 years, not a single day off, working for this many dollars an hour, doing something that you hate. How often are you painting? And it's just like, oh, well, I don't really have that much time. And I got this job and like I got kids and I got this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this. There's something twisted there, right? It's like there's something twisted there. And I feel that it's a program that started when we were in school. It's like school above everything else, then job above everything else. Do it on your lunch break. Do it, figure out a way to do it while you're working. Work on your craft and you can eventually build a legacy. It doesn't take, you're not going to need the same amount of time. The time that you're using in work is probably not effective. The time that you are using for yourself will be effective. I've tried my experience to be authentic. If I didn't have enough experience in something and taught it, then I don't feel authentic. Okay, good question. This is back to the previous chapter of this talk. This is always the limit that is justified in us because now we're smart enough to know that I don't have enough experience to teach it. Really? Really? If you know something, you can teach it to somebody else who doesn't know that something. And while you're teaching it to somebody else who doesn't know that one thing, you can be learning the next step. You can be deepening your understanding of that one thing. Did you know that in almost every single field, there's experts that are teaching specifically to beginners? There's other experts that are teaching specifically to people that's in the middle range. And there's other experts that are teaching only specifically to other professionals or other 1% top performers in the world. When we start to do something, we have this idea that we're going to only be teaching to people in the 1%. Think about me owning a gym. You think I thought I was going to be training a bunch of office workers that had never, ever exercised in their entire life? No, I was imagining training Olympic athletes and college players. And I did have some of those. Navy people training for Navy SEALs. I did have some of those. But almost everybody, the people that were paying the bills, because all of those other people, they end up costing you money as a business. They use your resources way more than everyone else. The bulk of your business or the bulk of anything is going to come with people that barely know anything. And here's the most important part. They will not even know that you don't know. Why is that important? Because it allows you to sustain yourself in the beginning. Will you make mistakes? Yes, you will. That's how you learn. You may hurt people. You may take too much money from somebody for the value that you gave them, but guess what? They're there to support you. They are also your fan. That's the thing, especially if you're talking about teaching people, people don't realize that the clients are rooting for you. They're looking for, you're like they're supporting you. It's almost like they adopted you and they also would like to see you succeed. There's no way to learn as a coach or a teacher without failing. How do you think you determine to get better so that never happens again? You cannot go through life without ever failing, without ever slipping up. It just doesn't happen. And if you are, you're operating at such a low level that it's not actually having any impact. There is a bit of pushing the boundaries that we do as humans. It's called falling off the bike and then picking it back up and recalibrating. And then you fall the other way and then you pick it back up and you're recalibrating. It's like, oh, okay, I got this balance thing. So now I'm going to go faster. And then you fall because you're going too fast. okay, that's too fast. And then can I do this while turning? It's just falling our way to success. The projection of criticism and shame is something I've been moving through. Amazing. This is the price that just beautiful and ideal. And sorry, can't read what that word was. Ideal. Dunning Kruger, not Danny Kruger. And Dunning is Dunning. Kruger, Krueger, is how I would guess that's spelled. Bringing home our newborn 28 years ago, my husband and I were like, here we go. We had no idea, but we did it. Exactly. I'm sure every single parent is doing what we're talking about naturally. The best way to prepare for parenthood is to not prepare. 28-day reset helps you be the best, which you will flow to your kids. Okay, I'm really behind in comments. Okay, the babies know from what we do, not what we speak. Exactly. What value do you bring, and can you bring that value for 2 hours a day and then play the rest of the time? 8 hours a day are from the old timeline. Baby steps to grow into a joyful life. I see how we perpetuate shame and stay unresponsive and freeze because we equate success with a huge ass step. Okay, so that's that. I don't know if Tony Robbins was the first person to say this, but I've heard him say that people overestimate what they can do short term and underestimate what they can do long term, which goes into what I was talking about being consistent. If you're consistent long term, even 1 hour a day for 365 days, that is going to put you at not above the 99% percentile of everybody in the world who has not done it. So let me say that again. And this isn't a Tony Robbins just said that first sentence. If you practice something or study something for 1 hour a day for an entire year, you are now more competent than 99% of the people who have never done it. And I would even say that that is way shorter. You do that for a few weeks, few months, you're probably 99% more, you're probably more competent than 99% of the world of people that haven't done it. And so the fear of not going into a professional venture or anything, a joyful venture, creative venture, a life-enhancing venture, because you feel like you're not good enough it's a fallacy. It's a myth. It comes from our fear of having a bad grade. Having a bad grade. People, do we know that that was all just a game? At what point did I remember waking up and thinking, why am I trying to get an A? What is the point of this? I don't even care about this stuff. And luckily, I had that awareness to just think, a C is good enough for me here. What I actually care about is hockey, which is also a game. But for me as a kid, that was what was more exciting. That's where I learned. Luckily, I was so good that I had good coaches that taught life experiences in practice. And for me, those were more valuable for the rest of my life than memorizing equations in math or sentence structures in literature. You can relearn that stuff when you're older. The quadratic equation, what is that? X minus y over a plus b over x times a plus b over y, something like that. I don't know how I even remembered that. Something. I remember X's and Y's and A's and algebra. I was actually a very advanced math student. I was doing the year in front of me at an ascended level. And I eventually was like, why? What's the purpose of calculus in my life? And I just quit doing that. They just kept on putting me in more and more advanced classes. And I was just like, I'm not passionate about this. I'm passionate about this game that I play every single day, that I have played every single game for my entire life, that was called hockey. And I rolled that passion of a physical expression of myself into owning gyms. We're stunting the growth of our children by forcing them into, you're going to read these books and take these tests. There's going to be some people that are going to be amazing accountants, and that's going to be right for them. There's going to be some people that are going to be amazing at pushing a button on a machine. They're going to be amazing in answering a phone and saying, hi, it's a beautiful day at Sunshine Lumberyard. How can I help you? All of that stuff is learned in school. There's other people that are going to be architects. They're going to have to use their thinking capacities to build things. and they're better suited in the backyard playing with wood and rocks than their face in a book. Are we able to see that and sense that within our children and not be so dogmatic on you need A's and B's? It's okay. These and D's are only measuring within the system. And that system, as we know, is not perfect. It's in line with the media. It's in line with the military. It's in line with pharmaceutical companies. It's in line with the banking industry. It's in line with the old way that we've been giving power to. I shouldn't say old way, the same structure that we've all been giving power to. Eventually they allowed calculators in high school for those. Yeah. Now, I'm not Canadian. I'm from Michigan, which Michigan basically sticks up into Canada. It's like literally a hand that's reaching up into Canada. Okay. So now we're at a point. I just realized and forgot what the point was because somebody started talking about where I'm from. Any questions on any of that? Any questions on personal agendas? Any questions on where to go? There's only the present moment that we always have. It's a ever-evolving state of now. And in order for us to be in alignment, whatever we're doing in this present moment is what is most important. It is the only thing that matters. And so us being aware of, are we doing this for the future? Is this an investment? That can all happen. Are we doing this because of something in the past? That's important as well. However, within our structures of reality, however we situated our work life, our relationship life, our importances in life, within those paradigms, we can dissolve them. But within the paradigms, the structures that we would like to have in our life, operating at the highest state is essentially, from my perspective, the only focus. It's the one thing that matters. In every moment, am I being the greatest version of myself? That's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what I did yesterday. It doesn't matter if I messed up yesterday or messed up this morning. In this moment, it doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of a discussion that's heated. Am I operating in my highest moment? I had a best friend. He said, somebody's defined by what they do after somebody punches them in the face. And this was like back in my fighting days. And I was like, what? I didn't know any other option. If someone punches me in the face, I'm punching them back. But his argument was, well, that's essentially, I can tell who you are by that. And I still was just like, how could you not do anything but that? And there's a whole bunch of other options. If somebody's attacking you, taking advantage of you, there's a whole bunch of different other options. And there is the reactiveness that is only going to be successful if you're more violent than them. And then what's that going to do? If you're both operating in that same frame of mind, then there's just going to be more violence back to you. And that's how we get into these cycles in life. This is just the root of a lot of the problems here. And in order for us to look out into reality and see a different reality, looking into ourselves and analyzing and say, if someone came up to me and punched me in the face, am I going to hit them back? That's an exercise. And I feel, let me tell you another story before I go on. I had a client when I was back in my beginning days when I didn't know anything. It was one of my stretching clients. And this is a producer. So we're talking about, I don't know what I'm doing. And there's a guy paying me $75 an hour. Straight guy, nothing weird. There was also women too, but straight guy paying me $75 an hour to come over to his house in the Hollywood Hills and like do the most atrocious, dumb stretches on him because I just didn't know any better. And he's multiple sessions. And one day I show up and he's got a black eye. And I said, what happened? He's like, oh, I was at a stoplight and somebody wasn't going. So I honked the horn and he got out of his car. And then I got out of my car and he walked up to me and he punched me in the face. And then I just got back in my car and he got back in his car and we both drove off. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, after he hit me, I just realized like, what are we doing? I'm not about to do this right now. And I'm sure there was a bunch of risk analysis as well because the person was very wealthy. And he just got back in his car and then went along his way. And it just didn't make any sense to me. But there are other options. Like if somebody just punched you in the face, what is the greatest expression of yourself in that moment? Sometimes it's violence. I'm not saying to be a pushover. I'm just saying, are we able to, even in the state of extreme stress, in our life still operate with full awareness of the capacities of self and full trust. I just remember what the next thing I was going to start talking about is, but I'll answer some questions first. What helped you remain consistent despite life stuff happening all the time? Also, thank you. This is the first live I've joined with you, and I'm so glad I did. What helped you remain consistent? Good question. Remember when I was talking about rejecting school? I just, for whatever reason, didn't respect the program that was put onto me. And I remember my mom telling me that I needed to do better. I remember my dad was always working. He didn't really, he tried disciplining me in other ways, but I had a very low respect and probably overinflated self-esteem, as most 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old males have, but not being aware of any other way, right? Not being aware of any other way. And this is talking when I'm younger. I'm still doing this today. I'm so happy and grateful I found you. Where do you think education will go for people like us who don't want our kids in the system of education? Does it come down to homeschool or collective community education? That's a great question. Amazing question. Do you know how the school system got to where it is right now? As I was talking about, it was developed in Germany. So that, maybe I didn't say Germany, but it was developed in Germany because Germany got smashed in World War I. And then they needed more soldiers that listened to instructions. So then World War II, they went into it prepared. After World War II, a lot of the German intelligence dispersed into America. And we essentially adapted their school system. And then I'm getting the timeline screwed up here. Anyways, I'm going to just go back to, how did I say consistent? You just do it. You just do it. You just ask yourself the question, what if I do this? What happens at the end of the year if I do this every single day? What happens at the end of the year if I don't do this every single day? What happens at the end of 10 years if I do this every single day? What happens at the end of 10 years if I don't do this every single day and continue working my job that I hate? What happens at the end of my life if I start doing this now? What happens at the end of my life if I don't start doing this now? A lot of us don't put the end in mind. So this is the equation that a lot of us use. We do something, and then 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 we do something. Think about it as the successful version of yourself did a whole bunch of stuff to get there, right? There's a whole bunch of yeses and no decisions to get there. A whole bunch of yeses and nos. And if you made the appropriate equation of yeses and nos, the appropriate answers, I'll call them using school terms, would get you to your success point. Now, the normal thing to do is you're here and you're deciding what to do now. And so you make a decision. And then you decide based on that what to do now. You make a decision. And then you decide what to do now. And then you make a decision. And you're just seeing what happens as time goes, as opposed to looking at all of the decisions that would need to be had in order for you to be at the success that you're envisioning. You're envisioning a success at a certain mode, a certain operational level of self. And that place has a bunch of versions of you that don't exist now that are a result of a bunch of decisions that you made along the way. And with that in mind, we can then ask ourselves here, what can I decide now that will fulfill one of these right decisions, correct decisions at the level of success that I'm envisioning? And we basically reverse engineer. So for me, back to the gym, living in Michigan, third unhealthiest state in the country at the time. I know I need to be in California. So I'm moving to California, period. Just moving to California because people care about fitness there. That's what I knew. Didn't know if it was accurate. Could have been successful in Michigan. But for me, I'm like, at the level of the vision that I have, tractor tires, ropes hanging from the ceiling, cool vibes. Everyone cares about fitness. They eat healthy. They go on hikes. They do recreational stuff. They're healthy people. That's what I envision in my gym. So what that means is that I don't just stay in Michigan and make a choice and make a choice and make a choice and make a choice and just see where that goes. we need to, if we would like to reverse engineer our life to figure out what we need to do today, we get to have that end vision in mind. And that end vision then tells us what we should be doing now. And we make sure that everything that we do is in alignment with that end vision. Now, that other thing that I was talking about, our end vision is literally just today. This is what I would like to do today. And most of the time, we're not even thinking about that. We're just like, I'm doing something. We're not even thinking about the direction that we're going. It's just, I'm doing something. So if we have that end vision, then we align what we're doing to make sure that it's serving that end vision. And that's a very easy way to stay consistent. It took me a little bit to get there. Did you have any fear of speaking on camera, and how did you overcome it? Yes, I did. If you guys, actually, I don't think it exists now, but I made a Instagram channel, and I decided I was going to go and make a video every single day for a year. That was the plan. I think I lasted 94 days. It was horrible. It was absolutely atrocious. Me on camera trying to figure out how to start that. Welcome to now. I used to say that. Welcome to now, everybody. I am Ra, and today we're going to be talking about whatever. It was called Practice of the Day. And I did it every single day, not to build an audience, but I did it to gain comfort and competence in front of a camera. And that evolved into what I'm doing now. That evolved into my entire social media presence. And it was very difficult to do. And if you start looking into successful people and you start looking at their life stories, you're going to see that nobody was born a genius or an expert at anything. They stayed consistent, experimented, made assessments based on the experiment, and then made a new plan, and then practiced it, and then assess, new plan, do it, assess, plan, do, review, plan, do, review, plan, do, review. Increasing competence a few percentages at a time. I'm still doing that. We all are still doing that if you're in the journey of self-ascension. Consistency has to do with awareness to be able to see our habits. We fall into our habits when inconsistent. That's a good, like, the habits are distracting us from the consistent action to a new reality. So here's the thing. Our habits are secured within the reality that we're in now. Everything that we are now, the whole environment, is a result of who we are, our habits, our relationships that we've secured now. We're attached to all these things. We've been dragging these things with us. If we are looking to go into a new reality, we get to release those things. And here's the final point. I'll give you two. So number one, no matter what, you're going to be there. You're going to be with yourself. You're the partner here. You're the one that matters. And no matter where life takes you, it's always going to be with you. And if you can learn to trust yourself, that's going to be your greatest sense of power. Because if you are going places with somebody that you trust, a best friend rather, somebody that is loyal, somebody that does what it takes, if you can start building that sensation within yourself, then you're going to feel supported when you go into new realms. Here's the second thing. Forcing our way within the reality that's already created is more difficult than creating a new reality. So if we're trying to tear down structures that we've built around ourselves, even within this whole world, that's already manifested. That's already taken shape into physical. The unmanifest, the unseen, the uncreated is unlimited. And if we can create from that standpoint, there's no limitations. That has not been manifested. That's up to you to manifest. That's up for you to create. So trying to play with the blocks, the building blocks that are here in physical reality, this is already somebody else's manifestation. It's much greater, simpler to manifest from the unseen, the unmanifest, the origin of all of this. Go play there. That's what originates all of this physical matter. Forcing our way through other people's manifestations that have already been created is difficult. It's a fight. It's always going to be against the grain. So go to the unseen. Go to your imagination. Go to your sense of fulfillment, sense of satisfaction? Where do you see yourself here? All of that has not been created yet. Get into the zone of what is meant to be and create from there. Everybody here relies on you to do that.